Hello students, today in this class we are going to learn about the first chapter of the first unit of your 11th NCERT syllabus, and this chapter is about the living world, because biology is a science, is a branch of science in which we study about the living organism. Bio means living and logy is to study. So biology is a branch in which we are studying about the living organism. So this first chapter is about the living world, the whole living world from ant to elephant, all are living. If you see one ant, it is this much, but you can still see it through your naked eyes. There are some organisms which you cannot see with your naked eyes. For example, microorganisms. They are also in living world and they have a very important role to play in our living world. So living world is consisting of a diversity, a vast majority of the organisms are present in this world. So this whole living world we are going to study, but we cannot study the whole living world together. As suppose if I want to take a class of the whole school, I cannot take it because everybody's mental age is different, everybody's intelligence is different. So we have to teach, we have to take class as per the age appropriate, as per the intelligence appropriate, as per the previous knowledge appropriate. So here also in living world also, we cannot study all of the organisms together. We have to classify them for our convenience of study. So in this chapter, first chapter of ours, we will see how we can classify these organisms and how we can study them separately in different classes so that we can understand about each and every one of them. Is derived from the Greek word bios, which means life, and logia means study. So, study of life, the branch of science where we are studying about the living organism. Biology is the study of life and living organism. Life can be defined as a property or quality of the living organism that distinguishes from dead or non-living in some functions. If you want to differentiate between the living and the non-living, there are certain characteristics on which you can differentiate them. First of all, growth, because living things grow. Living things have the metabolism process. What is metabolism? Metabolism is the sum total of biochemical reactions which are going in our body. Then response to stimuli. We always respond to our stimuli. We are conscious about our surroundings. If anyone is pricking a needle on your hand, you will remove your hand. So pricking is what? Is the stimuli, and removing your hand is your response. So this response to stimuli is there in living organisms and they are capable of reproduction. So these are the few characteristics which can, by which we can distinguish from living from non-living. But if we see growth, growth is an important characteristic feature of living beings. What does we mean by growth? Growth means increase in mass and number. Increase in mass, that is the weight, the increase in the size and the number also. Because as far as amoeba is concerned, a unicellular organism, what is growth? Growth is dividing it into two. They divide, they reproduce, and one amoeba reproduce and form two amoebas. So they are increasing in number. Non-living objects also grow in mass, but we cannot say that only living things can grow. Non-living also, suppose there is a rock and there is accumulation of soil on it. So the mass of that rock will keep on increasing. But that increase in the weight of the rock or that increase in the mass of the rock is from external. Whereas in case of living beings, the growth takes place is the internal process. Internally we are growing. The difference between the growth of the non-living and the growth of the living is that non-living objects, they grow by the accumulation of the material. I put a small ball of soil and I am putting more and more soil to it. So it is growing in the mass, but it is growing externally. Whereas in our case, in case of the living organism, the growth is an internal process. Inside the cell divisions are taking place, the cells are multiplying, the number of cells are increasing, and that increase in the number of cells, increase in the mass of the cells, is resulting in the growth. Plants show continuous growth. Now, what is the difference between the growth of the plants and animals? Plants can grow continuously. You must have seen trees, they keep on growing. Neem tree, mango tree, banyan tree, banana tree, they keep on growing. There is no limitation. But in animals, we grow up to a certain age. Like if you see me, I'm not growing now. In my body, there is no growth. My height will remain the same. But in your body, the growth is still taking place, and it will keep on taking place up till certain age. And after that age, the growth stops in case of animals. And after that age, the growth is not in the increase in the height, but it is only the repairment of the damaged tissue that is there after a certain age. The another characteristic is reproduction. All living beings produce their offspring by the process of reproduction. Now, reproduction is an important process for continuing the continuation of the species, continuation of the lineage of the species. Reproduction is of two types, sexual and asexual. This all you have learned in your 10th standard. Sexual is where the two parents are required and there is mixing of genetic material, formation of gametes, fusion of those gametes, and the formation of zygote. In asexual reproduction, by mitosis cell division, simply the parent cell divides and it gives rise to the new parent in case of unicellular organisms. And asexual modes are different, types are different, but in asexual only one parent is required. And genetically, the progeny is genetically similar to the parent. Fungi reproduce by asexual spores. Yeast and hydra reproduce by budding. We have done different types of modes of asexual reproduction. Different are binary fission, budding, multiple fission, formation of spores, and there is regeneration also. Regeneration is what? If you cut the body into different fragments, each fragment is capable of giving new body. That is only in the lower organism. In case of planaria, this happens. In case of starfish, each arm can give rise to a new starfish. But as the complex organisms are there, the regeneration is not about the whole body. The regeneration can be only of certain parts. Unicellular organisms like bacteria, algae, or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, because when amoeba is dividing and forming two daughter amoebas, so that is reproduction as well as growth. So they are increasing in number. So increasing in number is their reproduction. Third characteristic is metabolism. Now, what is metabolism? Metabolism is sum total of biochemical reactions which are taking place in our body, in the body of a living organism. There are many chemicals, there are many biomolecules which are present in the body. And these chemicals, they are interacting with each other and they are reacting with each other for metabolism. Now, what is metabolism? Metabolism can be divided into anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is synthesis of bigger molecule from the smaller molecules, and catabolism is breaking down of the bigger molecule into smaller molecules. So there can be synthesis, there can be breaking down. It is a continuous process, and sum total of all the biochemical reactions which are taking place in our body is called metabolism. And metabolism is the characteristic which is unique to the living organism only. No non-living object you will find metabolism. So metabolism is the characteristic which is present only in the living beings. Response to external stimuli. This is the fourth characteristic. Living organisms respond to surroundings. Like I have told you that whenever anybody is picking us, we will remove the hand. Teacher comes, you stand. So all these are what? These are response to the stimuli. Coming of teacher in the class is a stimulus, and your standing is the response. So we are responding to each and every stimulus of our environment. And this response to environmental stimuli could be physical, could be chemical, and could be biological. That means it can be in the form of the chemical reactions, it can be in the physical, like you stood up, that is physical, and it can be biological. Plants respond to external factors. Plants are also responding to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutants. What happened when there is light? The flowering of the plant, the fruit of the plant, all these things are depending on the photoperiodism. What amount of light is available to the plant, during what is the duration of that light available. That's why there are different plants for summers and different plants for winters, because the growth, the quality, a length of the light, that is called photoperiodism. Water, availability of the water, organisms are present. Suppose there are organisms can sense and response to environmental cues. What are cues? Suppose there are clouds, so we can, that is a clue for us that it is going to rain, so we can sense the cues also. Then photoperiod, I told you the period, but till the length of the period where the light is available. It affects the reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. Seasonal breeders are what? The breeders, the organisms which breed only in particular season. For example, you must have seen that birds, they come to the migratory birds, they come to India for seasonal breeding. So that is seasonal breeders. Seasonal breeders, they do not breed throughout the year, they breed only in a particular season. Organisms handle chemicals entering their bodies and aware of their surroundings. Human being is the only organism which has self-consciousness. Now remember here, in that living world, the whole living world, human being is the only living organism, is the only organism which is having self-consciousness. We are having consciousness about the surrounding as well as about the self. So this discriminates us from the rest of the living world, because we are having self-consciousness also. Now this was all about the characteristics, and we saw that what are the different characters by which we can define the living organism. And there are certain characters which they may be present in the non-living as well, but there is difference, like growth of non-living and living is different. Eating of, like fuel is required by non-living also, unless you will put petrol or diesel in your car, it will not run. So that is also eating, but there is difference. So the difference we have noted, and there are certain characteristics which are only present in the living thing, that is metabolism, reproduction, and the consciousness about the surrounding, the response to the external stimuli, and that is present in the whole living world. And in human beings, self-consciousness is also present, that is the consciousness about the self. Now there are certain terms which you have to understand in this chapter. First is biodiversity. Now bio is living and diversity means the vast variety. So the diverse forms of organisms which are present on earth is called biodiversity. And biodiversity can be of any area also, like you can see in school, in your school, biodiversity. What is the biodiversity? What all living organisms are present in your school campus? That is the biodiversity of your school campus. Similarly, when we are using the term only biodiversity, that means all the diverse forms of organisms which are present on earth. That is called biodiversity. Now nomenclature. All of you are having one name. Why name is important? Name is very important, because until and unless we have the name, we don't have any identity. The name is must. Similarly, the name of plants and animals is also must. Why? Because when we are discovering any new plant or when we are discovering any new animal, it has to be given name. Then only the rest of the world will come to know about that animal or that plant. Otherwise, nobody will come to know about that plant or animal. But this name, what should be this name? This should be a name which is uniformly accepted, which is accepted all over the world. For suppose I have discovered one organism here, one insect. I have discovered one insect in India. I will name it Harish because it's an Indian name. Now that same insect is discovered in London, and that person will give it a name John. The same insect is discovered in America, that will give it Jackie. So three names of one insect. Insect is same, but the places are different where it has been discovered, and the biologists are different who have discovered them. So to avoid this confusion, binomial nomenclature is there, which is given by Linnaeus. We will come to that, and this nomenclature is followed all over the world to give a uniform name to each and every organism. There are millions of plants and animals in the world. Animals and plants are known in the local area by their local names. Local names are there because from place to place, region to region, country to country, it differs. So it is impossible for any person to remember the name of the organism in all the languages. And everywhere it is different. So what is the need? The need is for a uniform system of nomenclature of organisms. Now, this uniform system of nomenclature of organisms is called binomial nomenclature. This binomial nomenclature was given by the Carolus Linnaeus. He is the Carolus Linnaeus. He gave this binomial nomenclature of naming species by giving each a name composed of two components. So each biological name is comprising of two names. One is generic name and one is species name. That means first is genus and second is species. For example, our biological name, the human being's biological name is Homo sapiens. So Homo is what? Homo is our generic name, genus, and sapiens is what? Is the species. Species is sapiens and Homo is genus. So Homo sapiens, that is our biological name. So Carolus Linnaeus invented the modern system of binomial nomenclature. Now there are certain rules to write this binomial nomenclature. To write this name, biological name, there are certain rules, and we all have to follow those rules. Biological names are usually written in Latin word and in italics font. So in all your textbooks, reference books, you will find all the biological names which are written in italics font. They will not be written in the normal font. And scientific name consists of two parts. First is genus and second is species. Now genus starts with the capital letter and species starts with the small letter. So whenever you are writing a biological name, for example, our name Homo sapiens, so H will be capital and S will be small. Biological name is or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin and underlined with when it is handwritten. Suppose you are writing your any biological name in your notebook, so you have to underline it. That is the rule. Now see this, the biological name of mango is Mangifera indica. Biological name of human being is Homo sapiens. Biological name of rice is Oryza sativa. Biological name of wheat is Triticum aestivum. So these are the rules which we have to follow when writing the biological name. Now we will see another terms, identification. Now what is identification? Identification is to identify, to recognize that what type of organism it is. So identification is the process of assigning a pre-existing taxon. Pre-existing taxon means it is already, like for example, there is one insect. No, that is insect. Taxon is in insect only. What is taxon? We will know now. So taxon is in insect only. But when we will identify, we will see that and say, yes, it is an insect. So that is identification. Identification is seeing that and assigning a pre-existing taxon to an individual organism. Now there are two international codes, which are for one for the botanical nomenclature and one for the zoological nomenclature. You have to learn these abbreviations. ICBN. ICBN is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature for the naming of the plants, and ICZN is the International Code for Zoological Nomenclature for the nomenclature of animals. Now, another term is classification. Now, what is classification? Classification is grouping of organisms. As I told you that we cannot learn about all the organisms which are present on Earth, because the biodiversity is there, it's a vast diversity. We cannot learn all of them together. So to understand them, to learn about them, we need to classify them. And the process of grouping of organisms into categories based on easily observable characters. Remember this, based on easily observable characters. For example, suppose somebody told you, somebody says that you have to classify your class. So the first classification would be boys and girls, because they are different. Boys and girls, that would be the first classification. So classification is based on the similarities and dissimilarities. You have to see the similarities. All similar things will be kept in one group, and all dissimilar from this will be kept in the another group. So that is called classification. Then taxon. Taxon is one scientific term for any unit. It is a single term used in the science of biology for the classification. Like one category is called taxon, and taxonomy is what? Taxonomy is the science of defining groups of biological organisms on the basis of shared characteristics, because they all are similar to someone and dissimilar to someone. So we have to concentrate on the similarities and dissimilarities, and then we have to give them the names. Then we have to classify them into different categories, and these different categories are called taxon. And this branch of science that deals with all this is called taxonomy. So what is taxonomy? Process of taxonomy will what? Characterization. You have seen something, you will characterize. Okay, this is having 2 eyes, 2 wings, 3 jointed legs. That is characterization. Then identification. Okay, so these are the characteristics of insect. This can be insect. That is identification. Then classification. You have to classify it. Which class, which order, which family. First of all, it is animal. Okay, animal kingdom. Then it is having 3 jointed legs, so class insecta. So depending on the characteristic, you have to classify it into phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. All these are the hierarchy of the taxonomy. And then you have to nomenclature. Then you have to give the name, biological name, depending on the genus and species. What is the genus? That would be the first name. And what is the species? That would be the second name. So 2 names together, binomial nomenclature. Now there is another term which is called systematics. Now the systematics is again derived from the Latin language, and systema means the systematic arrangement of the organism. For example, suppose you are visiting a grocery shop. So what the shopper do, he will keep all the pulses at one place, all the grains at one place, detergents at one place, so that it would be easier for him to take out anything. And that is in relation with each other. So here also, in relation with each other means He will keep all food items at one place, all detergents and toiletries at one place. So everything is kept, everything is arranged as per the group, as per the similarities, as per the relationship between each other. So this is what is done in living world also. In living world also, there the in different living organisms are related to each other. So they have been arranged as per the relationship of them. Simple, then slightly complex, then slightly complex. So this is called systematics. So systematics is the study of the diversification of living forms, both past and present, and the relationship among living organisms through time. Among living organisms also, from reptiles, birds were evolved. So what is the similarity between birds and reptiles? So all these things you have to keep in mind in systematics. So Linnaeus used Systema Nature as the title of his publication. The Linnaeus publication was titled as Systema Nature. Now the taxonomic category. Classification involves hierarchy of steps. As I told you, there is a hierarchy. What is the hierarchy? First, there is the whole living world, then two kingdoms, then phylums. So this is the hierarchy. Various steps of the classification hierarchy are called taxonomic categories. So all these steps are called taxonomic categories. And each level in the hierarchy represents an increase in the organizational complexity. Like you have learned animal kingdom in ninth, you have learned the 5 kingdom classification of Whitaker in ninth. What is that? From simple to complex. First of all, Monera, that is the prokaryotic unicellular organism. Then eukaryotic unicellular organism. Then like that, from simple to complex. So this is called organizational complexity. Species. Now what is species? Species is the group of individuals in which individuals can interbreed among themselves. So that is the criteria for denoting species. Species are the similar members of a group which are capable of interbreeding among themselves. If they are capable of interbreeding among themselves, they are called one species. For example, cats, cows, dogs. So they are all capable of interbreeding among themselves. So they all are one species. Members of a species have a large number of similar characters. The largest number of similar characters you will find in species, because in genus also there are many species, but species is the taxon, species is the taxonomic category where you will find the maximum number of similarities. And what are the examples? Mango, potato, lion, they all are having similar characteristics and they all are capable of interbreeding amongst themselves. Mango is capable of interbreeding with mango only. Potato is capable of interbreeding with potato only. Lion is capable of interbreeding with lioness only. So this is the criteria for defining species. Genus. Now what is genus? Genus is the second taxonomic category. A group of closely related species. They are called genus. For example, potato, tomato, brinjal. They are 3 different species, but they all belong to genus Solanum. Lion, tiger, leopard. They are all different species, but they are members of one genus that is called Panthera. Now, why lion, tiger and leopard are different species? Because they are not capable of interbreeding among themselves. Lion cannot interbreed with tiger. Tiger cannot interbreed with leopard. That's why they are different species, but their similarities are so much. So they are members of one genus. Genus is same, and that is Panthera. So you will find genus first. Genus is the first name. So you will find Panthera in all biological names. Panthera leo is the lion. Panthera pardus is the leopard. and Panthera tigris is the tiger. So all three are having same genus, Panthera, but their species are different. Leopardus and Tigris is the species. Now, after genus is the family. So, group of closely related genera means many genus which are having similar function, similar characteristics. They are called family. Families are characterized on both basis of the both vegetative and reproductive features of the plant species. Three different genera: Petunia, Datura, Solanum. They are placed in the family Solanaceae. So Solanaceae is one family where three genera are present: Solanum, Petunia and Datura. So these three are genus. So maximum number of similarities in species, then in genus, and then in family, because family is a group of genus. So in families like Panthera and genus Felis, they belong to the same family, that is called Felidae. After family comes order. A group of closely related families is called order. Now families, similar families, they are called order. Order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified on the aggregates of characters. For example, plant families. Now different families come into one order. Different families of animals will come into one order. So this example they have given, that plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae, they are included in this one order which is called Polymonial. In animals, Felidae and Coincidae, they have in one order Carnivora. So order is group of families. Then class. Class is next taxonomic hierarchy, which is the similar orders. That is a class. So class is a major category made up of one or more related orders that possess certain similar correlated characters. For example, class Mammalia has a number of orders like Carnivora, Rodentia, Primata, Insectivora. All of them, they possess mammary glands, external ears and hair. So that is the characteristic of class Mammalia: mammary glands, external ears and hair. So if these three characteristics are present, the class is Mammalia. Then comes the phylum. Phylum is a group of closely related classes. Now all classes together will come and form the phylum. So phylum, plant kingdom, phylum has been placed with division. In plant kingdom, there are divisions. In animal kingdom, you will find in phylums. For example, Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves, Mammalia, they all are phylum Chordata. They all are present in phylum Chordata. Kingdom. Then next is the kingdom, the highest group, the largest group, the group of all the related phyla is called the kingdom. For example, all plants of different divisions, they will come in plant kingdom. All organisms of eukaryotic, prokaryotic, they all will come into the animal kingdom. So this is the hierarchy. If we see the taxonomic hierarchy, species, similar species will form genus, similar genus will form family, similar families will form order, similar orders will form class, similar classes will form phylum or division, phylum in case of animals and division in case of plants, and then they will form all together, they will form kingdom. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy. Now see the names, biological names with their different taxonomic categories. For example, man. Man is biological name is Homo sapiens, H with capital, S small. What is the genus? Homo. What is the family? Hominidae. What is the order? Primate. What is the class? Chordata. And what is the phylum? Division, Mammalia. So this is how the different taxonomic categories are there, and the biological name is as per the genus and species. So this was all about the different taxonomical categories and their relationship among themselves.